Hello everyone, welcome back to Fanblade. As promised, this week it is Les Paul refurbishment time. This is your Epiphone Les Paul, doesn't say standard, deluxe or anything, it's sort of a later version, it's a cheaper version. There's no arch top, there's no binding, it's just basically a block of basswood with a fancy top and some terrible pickups in it. We'll address those in due course because they are kind of the main event, as it were, but in order to be able to show you how they sound, I need to get it playing properly first, and at the moment, the neck's got a bit of an issue. So currently there's no nut, that's the least of our problems. The actual problem is this little piece of grain figure here. This has, for whatever reason, basically, this has caused these two frets to sink. The whole neck sort of drops away just on those two frets across the D and G strings. It just doesn't play properly in this area. Those notes are no good. So first off, just as a warm-up really, we're going to refret this neck. It's just a case really of heating up the frets and popping them out, leveling the board, cleaning the slots, preparing the new frets, putting them in, level, crown, polish, should be good to go. Let's go. And there it is. I don't know if there's any prizes for world's fastest refret, but I think I'm in the running. Have a look at that. That's ever so very nice. It's probably better than it was from the factory. Next, I need to pop it on the body, put some strings on it, I've got to make a nut. I've got some brand new strings to give those pickups the best fighting chance that they will ever have of sounding any good, but they won't. Spoiler alert. Also, I should note that I've done a little bit of damage to one of my fingers, so I'll be demoing it with the other three, but it's not like we're looking forward to a world-class performance on this thing anyway. So I'll quickly just get this thing together and then I'll meet you in the studio in a second. Alright, now, just to try and give you some context as to why the Epiphone is so bad, here's the Graco from last week, and it sounds great. Even with my three-fingered technique, it still does the business. The strings that are on this one have had a couple of gigs played on them, so they're fairly nicely worn in. Let's try another one. Here's the 5-string that I converted from a 4-string. It has got a modern Bartolini split coil in there. Again, these strings have seen quite a lot of use. I use this bass quite a lot. Still a nice bright sound, plenty of output. The recorded volume is there on the screen. You can see how much output they're getting, and that's particularly important when we come to the Epiphone. And there's just nothing, it's just this insipid, weak little signal. It doesn't sound bad, particularly, but brand new factory fresh strings, they've got a little bit of brightness, but that wears off and this thing sounds dead and weak. I think we can do better than that. I have been pole piece shopping. I've got some cap screws, I've got some M10 by 12, and I've got some M8 by 16. I think I'm going to go with the M8s just because the pole pieces on the Graco are in fact 8mm, and the M10s just have such a magnificently humongous head on them. That's just ridiculous. It doesn't look like it'll work all that well to me. We can obviously try them and see, but I just want to get one of these things working first of all, just to see if it indeed works and if any of my theories are correct, which they may well not be. Let's not forget, I'm making this up as I go. So I need some flatwork, and I suppose I need to design that flatwork. Here we go. And now we're getting somewhere. That all lines up fairly well. I want these to be 10mm on the inside there, so I'm going to need to cut some little spaces so that I can glue all of these on at the same height and get everything straight and lined up properly. I hope. Here's my housings. I've marked all of this out off camera just to save a bit of time because this is getting quite a lengthy video. The plan is I'm going to drill some little holes just where I've marked those so that I can recess the pole pieces as they stick out there. Essentially, they're going to sit flat against the wood like that, and then when everything's set and dried I'm going to sand off this surface and that will expose the pole pieces, which hopefully should look pretty good. The only thing I'm worried about is that there's quite a bit of excess epoxy where I've glued the flatwork together, so I have to drill some oversized holes. They're all going to get filled with the resin, or will they? Or will I wind up with gaps? I don't know. Either way, I'm hoping that I don't go through and actually drill these through, because then I'll get a hole and then I'll get a leak when I come to set the epoxy. But it should work. If I'm careful, it should work. It is the next day. These are completely set. It's also very windy outside. You can probably hear a little bit of that noise coming through. Springtime in Christchurch is bizarre. The weather just goes completely off its meds, and yeah, you get some real interesting weather. It was hailing earlier today. But yes, that's beside the point. The point is, I'm ready to sand these down to their final size, because at the moment they're quite large, but I can, thin all this out a bit. The thing I've got to be very careful of, as I'm sanding through to the pole pieces, that I don't go too fast and I don't heat them up. Because if they heat up, they might burn the wood, they might damage the coils internally. Can't have that happening. So slowly but carefully, I've got to tape up the leads so they don't get in the way. And just, slow and steady. If I'm honest, that's not quite what I had in mind. The wood that I used for these is Quilla, like I would normally use, and normally I would ebonize it with the ferric oxide solution, and it would go black. But the chemical reaction depends on tannins in the wood, and not all wood wants to work as well. And while this is Quilla can be quite dramatically different in its makeup and its weight and its grain structure, and basically this didn't go as black as I wanted. Also, I think my construction method could do with a bit of work. You can see where the oversized holes are and the wood dust mixed with the epoxy to fill the gaps. I don't know why I expected that to take the ebonizing. I mean, it's I don't know. I'm also highly disappointed with this one, because if I try and sand down enough to get to the bottom of that little metal defect there, I am going to sand through the wood. The wood in this area, it's about 0.5 millimetre thick, and I dare not go any further. Oh well. They should work fine. They should look great. I mean, I give myself 85% out of 100. Room for improvement, but overall, yeah, not too bad. They'll take a few more coats of finish, and then I can stick them on the body. So I'm just getting ready to mark out on the body where I'm going to be carving out a bit of this extra wood. And I noticed that where the centerline where the join of the veneer does not follow the centerline. It ends up there. I mean, this thing is really, really bad. This thing's just shoddily made. I feel a lot better now about hacking it to bits to fit these giant things in. And it's done! After many more days than I wanted of fiddling about with it, it's finally finished. I had a lot of trouble cutting these cavities. The maple top, turns out, is a real maple top, but it's quite thin, and the basswood underneath was just crushing like sponge cake. So being able to get clean lines cut around there, I just couldn't do anything to stop the finish from chipping out. I mean, there's better ways to do it, I'm sure, router templates, etc., etc. The real thing that matters is, did any of it work? How do these sound? Well, I've just been and filmed this. Check this out. So, yeah, I would say that was definitely worth the effort. That thing sounds enormous. The neck pickup especially. What I will say for this design, it works great. It sounds fantastic. It's everything that I wanted it to be. I compared it to the Graco, and like it's got that same sort of grit and that same sort of beef, but I can't really do a direct comparison from the Graco to this because different pole piece size, different type of magnet, who knows what the wire gauge is in the Graco. I mean, you're not comparing apples with apples. It sounds sort of similar, and this one sounds great. So, I call this a success. I have learned an interesting thing though. When you have a split coil pickup, you want to have those two coils in two separate housings. You really do. Because there's not a whole lot you can do to adjust the individual string volume in this scenario. And this bridge pickup, you can't really tell from the video because it sort of gets compressed, but the difference in volume between these two strings and these two strings is, like, there's actually quite a drop-off. There's a noticeable difference just on the bridge pickup. It's not a tiny little bit on the neck pickup as well, but nowhere near, like, never enough to be a problem. But it is noticeable on the bridge pickup, and I think that's simply because where the pole pieces are, that much closer to the bridge, there's just not that much volume happening here, and the amount of string movement that you get is exponentially smaller towards the bridge. And the difference between that position and that position is less than the difference in volume between that position and that position, so you just notice that. When you have a bass with two sets of split coils, like this one, then what you find is that you've actually got control over the volume of that coil, so you can actually get a decent amount of volume. Oh, what's that, you say? What on earth is this bass? Well, I'll show you all about this one next week. But for now, I just want to say thank you very much for watching, thank you very much for subscribing, and I will see you again very, very soon. Thank you.